Hi everybody, Jeremy Patterson with the Patterson team at Fairway Mortgage. I'm sitting here today with Chad Trower, not only a good friend of mine, but a top producing realtor here in San Diego County. And we just kind of wanted to talk real estate and talk market, talk bubble, talk what's happening, and just have fun with it, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so the thought behind the real estate market today and kind of the direction it's going is we get tons of questions. I would say I probably get at least 3 or 4 a day about, should I buy? Are we in a bubble? What to do?
Yeah.
So kind of give me some thoughts on that, Chad. What are you thinking?
I get a lot of the same things. I think the bubble question it's interesting because it depends who you ask, you're going to get different answer, right? You ask someone who maybe is gotten priced out of the market, they're hoping for a bubble. They're hoping it's going to burst, right? And they're hoping for the prices to crash so they can afford. But you talk to people that are more educated and watch the data, the things that made the bubble burst last time, they're not there. The indicators aren't there. So I don't see a bubble personally. I see a correction maybe coming, but that's a lot different than a bubble.
Yeah. And if you really, so I think that's a really good point. If we think backwards in time, you go, okay, let's talk about 2006, 7, and 8, right? So let's talk about the factors that caused that market to crash, right? And back then, it was definitely more of a financial situation, right? As lenders, we were putting people in homes that simply couldn't qualify in real dollars and real numbers, right? People were buying homes more like to speculate, and they go, okay, I'm going to buy this home, I'm going to do this loan, I'm going to be in it for 2 years, and I'm going to sell it and trade up, or I'm going to refinance out of this loan, right?
And I think that was, sorry to cut you off, I think that was a lot of the pitch.
I agree.
Because I personally bought a home during that time. I don't even know if you know this story. I bought a home during that time, and the realtor was also a lender. He did both, which I frown upon, especially after doing this for a while. But he did both, and he's like, oh, you guys should buy this home, and you're gonna get raises in the future. For sure, you can afford a bigger payment when the rate adjusts, because we got an ARM. I'm like, oh yeah, for sure. We're both professionals. We're gonna get raises. And everything went completely sideways. I had a life event. The person I was buying the home with, we separated, and everything just went south really fast. So I got bought into that. Like I got bought into, hey, here's you can afford this home right now, and in 4 years the payment's going to adjust. But we weren't even clear how much it was going to adjust. And when it did, it was just the wrong time. And then I got laid off from my job, so it was like the perfect storm for me. But I was sold on that. Like, hey, this ARM is going to work, and you're going to be able to buy this amazing home, and don't worry about the future, And it was just. It was tough, so I learned the hard way. I've been through it, But I don't see that happening again right now. I don't see those loans being sold. At least I don't see that.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about that product, not only was it adjust rate mortgages, it was an adjust rate mortgage that it wasn't an A paper adjust rate mortgages, and there's a big difference between, adjust rate mortgages we were selling in 2006, 7, and 8 compared to adjust rate mortgages that are happening today. Because they are kind of happening with interest rates climbing, they're going to become more common, right? Because people are going to look and search out ways to get lower interest rates. But the biggest problem was when they did adjust, there was no product for anybody left, right? Like you got to a point where you couldn't refinance out of them, and when the payment did adjust, it would jump drastically. So a lot of people watching this video have been in that before, right? We've seen it. I've personally seen it because I was lending, right? I had families go through it. One of the most difficult things. Now you fast forward to now, right? And now we have it a little differently where, I really believe that what it means to own a home has kind of changed over the last couple of years because of COVID.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
And to get financing on those homes, we don't have stated income loans anymore, right? There are some outlying products, but not a common thing, right? Every client you talk to, you're not doing a stated income loan because it's easier, which is what we did back in 2006 and 7. Compared to now, you have to afford your home, right? We also have trillions of dollars in home equity, which we have never seen in our country. The amount of home equity we currently have.
So like, for example, now if people ran into the same problem they did then, like if I was in the situation I was back then, I would just sell the home. Because I wouldn't be upside down, I wouldn't get foreclosed on, I wouldn't have a short sale, it would just be like, just sell the home.
Right.
So now it's different. So that's why I don't see it as a true bubble.
Yeah, I think another indicator of that too is inventory, right?
Yes, supply and demand, it's very simple, right?
Always.
Inventory, I check inventory almost daily. I mean, it's all data in real estate. So kind of boring, but that's what it's about. As of this morning, in San Diego County alone, for detached and condos only, no land, no manufactured home, there's only 1,685 properties for sale. Okay, so To put that in perspective, pre-COVID, at any given time in San Diego County, you have about 4,500 to 5,000 properties for sale.
Yeah.
So significantly down. And then during COVID, we got as low as 800 or 900 houses in the whole county for sale. That's crazy for 3.5 million people. That's just bananas, right? Now we're trending back up. We're 1,685 today. Under a million's about 910 properties. So we're trending the right direction, but it's still extremely low inventory.
So just to be clear, under $1 million, if you want to buy a home today.
Yep, there's 910 choices. It's nuts. So that's what's driving the prices, but that's also why we don't have a bubble. There's no reason for it to burst because we're not all of a sudden going to have a bunch of inventory come out of nowhere.
Yeah, now a lot of people believe the rates climbing are going to start to cause some situation there, right? Like affordability is going to be a problem. Payments are going higher. Like how can people afford $1 million home here in San Diego? But what we're seeing is applications in purchase side are really strong. Stronger this month than some months last year.
Yeah.
And the inventory is still something that we're all battling, right? I mean, the listings that you have right now, are you still getting multiple offers on them?
Not as many. So that's the thing, right? So we're noticing the rates are changing the market a little bit, but it's not crashing. Things are slowing down. Instead of having 16 offers, I'll have 3 or 4.
Right, but still multiples.
Multiples, and they're all strong, and we're seeing a lot of money come from other parts of the country, like San Francisco, LA. They're coming down here, and they're able to afford down here what up there wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
So the money's kind of migrating around the country. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, so think about this a little bit. If you live in San Diego now, and you go to Arizona, right, you're going to find a mansion out there for what we look at here at $1.5, $2 million.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as happening here in San Diego. It's just people coming from Orange County or San Francisco or San Jose or Santa Barbara. Like the more expensive areas up there, they're coming here because the weather's good. And what COVID facilitated for all of us is this thought of working from home, right? We're now mobile to take our income wherever we want really in the U.S. to make it work.
Yeah.
Now, some employers are starting to pull back from that, right? But still doesn't mean it's not feasible for a lot of us and why a lot of money is here in San Diego.
Yeah. Yeah, majority of people are working from home, and then COVID made a lot of people want to be near family. So I had a lot of people moving either out of state to be near family or even in locally just to be closer to family or buy a bigger property to bring their family onto the property. So COVID changed a lot of stuff like that as far as dynamic of what people wanted to buy. I got a lot of people wanting to buy land to get away from everybody. So it's kind of an interesting change.
Yeah. So if you think about us not being in a bubble, what would it take for home prices to come down?
Inventory's got to come up.
Yeah.
I think that with the interest rates going up, the home prices are, I'd say softening is probably a good word. I don't see them going down at all anywhere, but it's just not as aggressive out there. Like I said, I'm seeing a lot less offers, but I think for something to burst, you have to have a ton of inventory, and I don't know how fast new construction can catch up.
Yeah. So it's something we watch all the time. We're in new construction as lenders throughout the country. And really, if you look at the stats, we're short about 4 million homes in the U.S. when it comes to having an equal market or the need for homes.
Yeah.
Builders in their best years in the U.S. built 2 million homes. That's when they had no supply issues. They had no issues with pricing for those supplies, right? So I agree with you. I think we're going to be behind in building for a while. But the thought on inventory is something I want to break down a little bit more, right? So just to kind of put what Chad's saying in perspective, you're going to have sellers that need to sell or want to sell, and you're going to have buyers that don't want to buy and don't need to buy. That's something that I don't know how that changes. I think that we've kind of shifted with COVID, where how are we going to create sellers that have to sell?
Well, we can't do that. Like we
exactly
can't force anybody to sell their property, right? But you have people that always need to sell because families are growing. That always happens.
Sure.
People move for jobs. So some people have to sell no matter what. And that's why the business kept rolling through COVID. Like even through COVID, I had I actually had my best years in 2021 and 2022.
Yeah.
Because I just never stopped working. But the business was out there because people still had to buy and sell and move. But it was the people that are now like, kind of backing off and like, well, I don't need to.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but I've been looking for 2 years and now I changed my mind. That's what I'm seeing from my end.
Yeah, I kind of call it the cost of the jump, right? So the thought behind that is if you own a home and you've been in it for 2 or 3 years, you're at all-time low interest rates. You either refinance lower or you bought lower. Now that trade up has to be really something you need to do because you're going to have to want to pay a much bigger mortgage payment. Right? Interest rates now are not at 2.5; they're at high 4s, low 5s. if you got to jump up in price range, your tax base changes quite a bit,
Yep.
right? So before, if you think about, other times in our history, that trade up to sell one home and go to the next, it was, oh, I found this beautiful home. It'd be so nice to have an extra room or an extra bedroom, and it's going to cost me $400 or $500 a month, and I can sell this home and buy the next one.
Yeah.
But going forward, I believe that there's going to be a really difficult time because that need is going to have to be something that's really, really high because the cost of doing it is going to be high based on just the monthly payment.
Yeah. Yeah, the only out on that is if you're transferring to a different state. If you're trying to
100%.
buy in San Diego and stay in San Diego, that's we're seeing some challenges there. But if you're, like you said, going to Arizona, going to all these places in the Midwest, you can still sell here and go there. Even with a higher interest rate, you can do really well.
Yeah, I agree because it's just the big jump there. And all comes down to what people need to do, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's a crazy time.
Yeah.
So we don't believe there's a bubble. You and I can kind of agree on that, right? We both agree that housing has to slow, right? The appreciation has to slow.
Yeah.
Right? We don't see a pullback happening. Now there's no crystal ball here, right? We can't predict the future.
No.
We don't know what it looks like, but we can use the past to help us decide what the future looks like. So in all those factors, the next thought is, okay, I'm a homeowner. Or let's take homeowner out of it. Let's just say I'm a home buyer. Should I buy in this market, right? Prices are high. Interest rates are high.
Yeah.
I've got to find a way to afford a payment that if I would have bought, it would have been different. So how do I, as a buyer, navigate that? Because I think a lot of people are thinking that, and they're questioning that. If they don't own now, like, what do I do?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot in there. So you can't look backwards and shoulda, coulda, woulda, right?
100%.
We can all say that, right? I mean, that'd be great if we could all do that. And it also depends on, do you have to buy or do you want to buy? And why are you buying? Let's say you want to buy to invest for your future, for your family, something you want to stay in for 5, 6, 7 years or longer, something you want to use to buy, build equity, and move to the next property. Then probably you should start looking, right? Because long term in Southern California, you're always going to do well. I mean, I always use my parents' example as they bought their first house in Mira Mesa for $18,000. Right? There's nothing in Mira Mesa under like $600,000 or $700,000 right now. $18,000, and so long term, I mean, that's a long time, right? But even 10 years, if you look back, almost every 10 years, except for the one dip that we had, you're always going to do good. So if you want to buy something, I'd say there's nothing wrong with buying now if you're going to keep it for a long time. And the other thing people get hung up on is they always, especially first-time home buyers, they want to buy the perfect home that they think they're going to stay in forever.
Yeah.
And I tell them, look, just buy something, get some equity, and then buy your next property. Use it as a stepping stone property, right? Like people that buy condos, well, I don't want a condo, I want a house with a yard. Well, you can't afford that right now. But if you buy a condo now, maybe in 2 or 3 or 4 years, then maybe you can buy that house. And then maybe it's an even better situation than you thought. So I think people look way too long term, and they need to look a little shorter as far as keeping the property, because it's probably not gonna be their perfect one.
Yeah.
But if you don't have to buy, maybe you wait a little while. But if you're waiting because you think the prices are going to go down or we're going to have a crash, or I would recommend that's probably not the right reason to wait.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe waiting for a job change or a promotion, that's a reason to wait. But if you're waiting for prices to crash, like I've had people waiting for a couple of years now and it's only gone up 20, 25, 30% in different places.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on the thought of waiting. Right? I'm not a fan of waiting. I have clients too. As a lender, I talk to a lot of people, and I really believe it's my job to have people understand why they should buy a home, right?
Yeah.
And if it's fiscally responsible to do so, and they don't do it, I don't feel like I'm giving the best advice because it's just not coming out the right way. There's nothing more important than home ownership to build wealth, right? So if you look at your financial plan, you look at the direction that you want to go, if home ownership makes sense, you should buy a home. Because I agree with you. I've had too many people that just simply have waited and now they regret it.
Yep.
But then they look back and go, well, if I would have, it would have been this. And it eats them alive because now they're buying a home today that's more expensive, a little smaller, and the payment's bigger, more than they were expecting because they just didn't buy. But we can't let that affect what we're going to do for the future because we just don't know what it brings. So I think it is very important to do that. So, okay, let's say we agree and I'm going to go buy a home. Well, in this market, it's still really competitive. How the heck do I get my offer accepted?
So that's a great question. The biggest thing has always been for me as an agent is number one, it's communication, right? People think, you got to get the best price, you got to get this, you got to get these terms. Start with communication. Like if I start with good communication between myself and the listing agent, I'm already ahead of a bunch of the other agents, right? And then asking the right questions to that agent. It's not always price. People think you have to outbid everybody, you got to like go 100 grand over asking. Not always. If you ask the agent what's the most important thing to your sellers, they might say, well, they want a good price, but they need to stay in the home for a month after the sale, or whatever it is. But if you don't ask the question, you never know. So I ask those questions, I find those things out, then we tailor our package around that. And then the offer package is exactly that. It's a package. It's not just an offer document, it's a whole package that shows the whole picture.
Yep.
You know, all the financials, your proof of funds, all your docs from your lender, all that stuff, so that they get a good picture of what they're up against. And we've beat offers out on properties with 25 other offers.
Yeah.
So we beat 25 other offers, 25 other agents, because we communicated, we asked what was important, and we gave them that in our offer.
Yeah. Like you, I think communication is the key, because we've been on that side.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
We've both got offers accepted when there was multiple offers and we're trying to figure it out. On my side, it is definitely about calling the listing agent, right? Making sure they're not trying to track us down. So just like Chad, we have a process of getting all of our clients fully underwritten,
Yeah.
fully approved, get the job done, close quickly if we have to, because we have to have the ability, if the seller, if it's important to them, to be able to do it.
Yep.
Guarantee our earnest money deposit, right? Make sure that we're taking some risk so that the seller knows we're serious.
Yep.
And then also simply tracking people down to have the conversation, right? Right now, listing agents have been so busy over the last 2 years, it's hard to get them on the phone. But when you have the opportunity to talk to them and you have good conversations and they understand what you're doing, how you're doing it, has a huge impact on getting the offer accepted.
Yeah.
There's been more times than not where a listing agent says, Jeremy, you're the only one that's called me. And
Yep.
blows my mind, but I get it, right?
Yeah.
We're all busy.
Yeah.
It just comes to what's most valuable for us and how we serve our clients the best.
Yeah, and as primary listing agent, I do focus on that, right? Like I focus on what's coming into my offers from my clients, and I'll get 10 offers, and literally 2 agents out of those 10 will call me.
Right.
I might get 2 that text me, and the other ones don't do anything. They email me the offer, and then it's like crickets. It's like, well, who am I going to want to work with for an escrow for 30 days if I can't even talk to them in the first couple days of putting the offer in? So making the call, making the text, sending a video call, stuff like that makes a difference. So, on the listing side, that stuff's huge.
Yeah. Now, with you listing properties, what kind of things do you see that you wish other agents would know or other consumers would know their agent should be doing? Like as a listing agent, what things are you like, oh, hey, I wish that more people knew that their agent should be doing this?
I think that comes back to working with a pro. We talked about that briefly, but
Yeah.
working with someone who's really good in their field, I want that communication up front, like I said, because if I don't get it now, how am I going to get a hold of them through the escrow? And
Right.
if I can't get a hold of them to get something done, an inspection done or something, it's just very frustrating for everybody. So I think communication's number one. I don't know, I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
You kind of got me off there in a second.
No, it's one of those ones, right? You look
Yeah.
at it and go, man, what other things are we, because we're so used to doing business our way and doing everything we can up front.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of people that just don't understand that. And I think it comes down to experience, right?
Yeah.
A lot of it is
Yeah.
experience.
Yep.
I think that there's a difference in professionals, right? Realtors. It's really hard to say because I work with a lot of different realtors, but there is 100% a difference in somebody that really serves a lot of families and doesn't. It does have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's why they're doing it, right? Like,
Correct.
if you can tell on the other end, when the agent on the other end really cares about the family and all they want to do is help them and serve them, help them get the home, you could tell the way they act and how professional they are, where other ones are going after the commission and they act completely different and they don't really care about the family and they just want to close the deal. So, realtors are different. There's a lot of different ones out there for sure. So we're not all the same.
Yeah, so leading into that, we've got our buyer figured out. We're going to figure out how we're going to accept their offer. We've talked about a lot of different stuff. So my question to you then becomes, why work with a pro? So I think one of the hardest things that I work with on buyer side is buyers don't recognize, they don't pay agents, but that agent can cost them a ton of money.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because you are a pro and you are one of the best, and we work together all the time. So let's talk about that a little bit.
There's a couple different things. So a good analogy is, let's say you were getting sued for $900,000, right?
Yep.
wouldn't you want a really good attorney with a really good team that was going to help you not lose $900,000?
100%.
So why would you go for the cheap, fast, Better Call Saul guy, right? You need a professional in your corner. That's a huge purchase, and for most people, it's the biggest purchase they've ever made and may ever make. So you need that pro, right?
Yep.
And agents that know even just the simplest things. Like I have a story with a house that we were selling, and the guy had lived in it for 2 years, never had a problem with his plumbing. The house was flipped when he bought it. All the plumbing was new, out to the street. And he said, well, I've never had a problem. And they said, okay, well, the buyers are going to scope the plumbing. So they run a camera down there. When the camera got to the street, the clay piping in the street in La Mesa had broken off. So for 2 years, water had been going underneath the street in La Mesa, was causing a sinkhole. Like, you know, if that buyer's agent hadn't been professional and said, hey, you need to spend $150 and get a sewer scope, they wouldn't have figured that out. That could have been a major problem. So just the little things make such a big difference.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, almost anybody could sell a house right now, but to know the ins and outs of houses, I mean, to see key indicators of major problems, that takes experience.
Yeah.
You know, it takes time.
Yeah, and it's kind of on our side too, right? It's very similar in the way that, you know, you don't work with me because I do a loan, right?
Correct.
Loans are the easy part,
Yeah.
right? It's the planning, it's the closing on time, it's getting offers accepted, it's going through the entire process and making sure that we have a way to help you grow wealth in the future, right? Like you, we don't focus just on the transaction, which also means we can't be the cheapest, right?
Yeah.
We're not designed to be that way because ultimately I can't have the staff I have with great people, serving people in the way I want, and be the cheapest because I can't cut all the corners, right? But my clients don't work with us because we're the cheapest. They work with us because they know we're going to get the job done. Like, do you want to risk your $900,000 home and closing it with a bank?
Yeah.
Or a credit union?
Yeah.
Or we have multiple stories of bad things that happen all the time, right?
Yeah.
Now, we also have multiple stories of good things happening all the time, right? So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
But I think picking a pro and working with a pro is the most important thing to a successful real estate transaction, and also growing wealth and having great advice for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, home ownership is by far the easiest and best way to grow wealth. I mean, if you look at the United States, that's where the wealthiest people have a lot of their money is in real estate.
Yeah.
So, you know, and you don't have to own 50 properties. You can start with one, and then you can grow a portfolio if you want to. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to start somewhere.
I agree. Well, Chad, thanks for stopping in today. It's great
absolutely.
talking to you.
Yeah.
We love working with you. You're one of the
you.
best.
Thank you.
For everybody, if you're looking for great real estate advice and you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, all of Chad's contact information is below. Please give him a call, talk to him. He's one of the best. I look forward to serving you guys in the future, and we'll continue to talk about real estate and growing wealth. We appreciate you tuning in.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks.